I'm doing fantastic. You have been racking up some frequent flyer miles this election season, flying around the country supporting Republicans who are trying to help you guys take back the Senate. How's that going?
I think it's going to go very well. I mean, obviously, we still have to go vote, and so I hope everyone that's listening is going to be voting there. But we have an important Senate race. But, I mean, I think it's going great. I mean, obviously, we have to finish the job. But if you look around the country, it is clear that the momentum is on our side, and now that just needs to translate into votes on Tuesday so we can finish the job.
Well, in all honesty, if you're talking to my audience, you are talking to a Cory Gardner crowd overwhelmingly. That's not to say that we don't have Mark Uterus supporters in our audience, but Cory Gardner is the guy. But I want to talk to you specifically about what the plans are in the Senate if the Republicans take the Senate. Because, yes, we've talked about the Republicans could take the Senate and this could be a big deal. And everyone's talking about who's going to be in leadership and things like that. But practically speaking, what does that mean if the Republicans are successful?
That's exactly what we need to be focused on. So I think a couple points. First of all, we can't be here hyper-analyzing what the president will sign or not sign. We have to do our job, and then he's going to have to make a decision about what he wants his legacy to be. It's already badly damaged. So the second thing is, well, what is it that we're facing? And, when I travel around the country, here's what I hear a lot. I hear people saying that they keep hearing on the news that unemployment is down and the economy's growing. How come they're not feeling it? How come apparently it hasn't gotten to them yet, and they're really frustrated. And one of the reasons why is because we have this big government leadership that's stuck in the past. They keep trying to fix modern problems with yesterday's ideas, and they don't work anymore. I mean, we've got more global competition than ever, yet they think we can tax businesses anything we want. We have a higher education system that is burdening kids with a bunch of debt and graduating with degrees that don't lead to 21st century jobs. All those things have to be addressed. So I actually think that our challenge is to take our principles of limited government and free enterprise and apply them to the unique challenges of today. That means, for example, making America the best place in the world to create jobs again by bringing the corporate tax rate under control, by bringing regulations under control, by bringing the debt under control so people aren't afraid about investing here for our future, and by fully utilizing all of our energy resources so that we can get manufacturing back in America again. Because, energy is one of the leading costs of manufacturing. You can bring that lower, all of a sudden America, has a manufacturing renaissance. And on the education side, a lot of different points. I mean, why did we ever stigmatize vocational education? We need welders and plumbers and mechanics and airplane mechanics, and we can graduate kids from high school with those skills. We need to help people that are stuck in low-paying jobs, like, let's say, a receptionist making $10 an hour. We need to have a flexible educational system at the state level that allows them to acquire skills to become a paralegal so they can make $50,000 a year. And in colleges need more competition. I mean, they are graduating kids with a mountain of debt and degrees that don't lead to jobs. We need to give them some more competition and more innovation. The Democrats just want to keep pouring money into these schools. Every time they raise student aid, the schools come in and raise tuition and eat it up. So I hope we'll have an agenda like that, and that'll help reinvigorate the American economy. And I think if we do those things, the 21st century is going to be an American century. And if we don't, then we're going to be the first generation of Americans that leave our children worse off than us.
I'll say this. It's kind of interesting to hear you talk about the Republican Party as being the party with the answers for the 21st century, because they've been painted, obviously, by Democrats as the sort of old stodgy guy party. You and your class of freshman senators that came in a few years ago have really shaken things up and sort of shifted some of the direction of the party. And yet, and this is just me, I do think that there's still a little bit of a conflict between the more established members of the party and the younger members of the party. How do you feel that those two sides are working together? Obviously, everybody's on the same page for this election. But
that's a great question. That's one of the reasons why I was so excited about Cory Gardner running, and I actually asked him to run and so try to be helpful in his campaign. I think he will be that kind of reformer. Look, I'm not saying that outdated thinking is solely the purview of the left. I think the left's ideas have never worked, to be honest with you. Big government has never worked, but it works even less now than it ever did. And I think in our party, some of it has been timidity, and there's been this idea that, well, let's just try some of the things that worked back in the 1980s. Our principles still work, but the ideas have to be different because the world has changed. So I do think that electing new senators with that kind of energy that are in touch with 21st century challenges, people like Cory Gardner, that's what I'm excited about, is to be able to go back up there now and say, okay, now we've got a team of Cory Gardner and Ben Sass in Nebraska and Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire and Tim Scott in South Carolina and Mike Lee in Utah. Now suddenly you got a team of young reformers who don't realize that our principles of limited government and free enterprise work better today than ever before. We just have to apply them to the unique challenges of our time. And you're right, there is a competition in our party about whose ideas will prevail, but I feel optimistic that this election will be a referendum on that, and that will give us the kind of momentum we need to actually put some of these things in practice.
One of the areas that's been very frustrating for me as a female who is conservative, this war on women crap has just been driving me insane. As a matter of fact, I was very critical of an article or an ad that Cory Gardner put out because I thought that by deigning to even address the nonsense of the war on women, he was somehow giving it some kind of justification. At some point, it's going to stop working, but how do we get past this once and for all? How do the Republicans put a nail in that coffin and say, forget it, this is not happening, it hasn't been happening, it's never happening, it's not part of the party platform ever? How do we just put this to bed?
Well, first of all, I want every American to be successful, have the opportunity to succeed, irrespective of your gender, irrespective of your race, irrespective of your ethnicity. We want every American to succeed, and I don't think you need to have a specific agenda for one group of Americans over another. I mean, we all are in it together, literally, in terms of whether our country's better off or not. If you talk to a lot of women out there today that I've interacted with, for example, you have a growing number of single mothers abandoned by the father of their children who are now struggling to raise their kids, making $11 an hour. So let's say you're a home health aide and you make $10 an hour and you're a single mom. What are your chances of upward mobility? That they're going to raise your pay to $10.10 because of the Obama minimum wage increase? That's not good enough. Here's what we need. We need a new, flexible 21st century education system that allows you, while you're working full-time and raising your family, to acquire the skills that allow you to become, instead of a home health aide making $10 an hour, become a dental hygienist making $35 an hour. You talk about fighting on behalf of people. That is a life-changing development. The Democrats have no answer for that. Their answer for that is, let's just raise the minimum wage to $10.10 and talk about social issues all day. Well, what about people's everyday lives? And what are you doing to help them with their everyday lives? Their only prescription is, let's go back to some outdated stuff that polls well but doesn't really change anything. So we have an opportunity there to show that our policies work for every American.
I have long been advocating for some significant changes in the way, just like you were saying, the educational system that we have. It's a very outdated model. Even the four-year university system does not work for a lot of people. And I think that you should be able to go back and take classes that will move you towards an engineering degree and not necessarily have to take classical Greek history to get there. How do you, because those things are locally controlled by a board of regents, I mean, how do you in the U.S. Senate advocate for those changes? How do you make that happen?
The biggest role the federal government plays is as a payer. And they pay a lot of the higher education costs in America through loans and Pell Grants and so forth. In order for them to pay now for your higher ed, you have to go through an accredited school. Accreditation is basically boards created by the colleges themselves. And so you've got the regulated creating their own regulations, and they do it to protect themselves. So if tomorrow you came up with an innovative program, so let's say you wanted to help people package life experience, work experience, some free online courses, and maybe a couple classes at a community college, and turn all that learning into the equivalent of a degree, you can't do it. The federal government won't pay for it, and the traditional schools won't provide it to you. So we need to create alternative programs that we are willing to pay for that allow people to package learning no matter where they acquired it from. I mean, look, if you've worked for 10 years as a home health aide, you've learned something that should be worth college credit of significant value. No one can tell me that working for 10 years in your field is not worth more than sitting for 3 months in a classroom. So that's just one example. These colleges and universities, they need competition. It is unbelievable to me that it is more expensive to take a course online from a traditional college than it is to sit in the classroom and take the same course. When those courses are now available free online from multiple distinguished institutions around the world, and yet no one will give you credit for it. So again, there's a lot of work to be done where the federal government can step in as a payer and say, we are willing to help you pay for Let me give you one more example. If you took a course from Microsoft on how to use Word and Outlook and so forth, the federal government won't pay for it. But if you took the same course from a community college, they would. That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Let me hit one more point before we have to go. What does a Republican Senate mean for Obamacare?
Well, first of all, I hope it means that we'll come up with an alternative that will offer people. I'm actually been working on one with Paul Ryan that we hope to introduce soon, and the basic gist of it would be that every American will now be allowed to buy health insurance of the kind they want, because we all want different health insurance. Just like we all want different kinds of cars and different houses, we all want different health insurance. You know, a healthy, single, 25-year-old male needs different health insurance than a married father of four. And so the point is, we want to have every American be able to buy the kind of health insurance they want at a price that they're willing to pay, and from any company in America that will sell it to you. And you should be able to buy it with either tax credit or pre-tax dollars, just like your employer pays for it if they decide to give it to you. And that's a lot better than the disaster we have right now, which I think every single day more and more people are realizing what a disaster Obamacare is.
Well, I very much appreciate that. And does that mean that we would be looking at repeal? I know Mitch McConnell was kind of alluding to the fact that even with 51 votes, they would be going after Obamacare.
Yeah, look, I think he's talking about procedurally, how do you pass it or so forth. I think we need to do it in any way we can to get it done. This is really damaging our economy now. I'm now running into people that were so happy they had Obamacare until they went to the doctor and realized they have a $5,000 deductible. And they realized suddenly that unless they have $5,000 in cash, which of course they don't, they're not insured. And
right.
They're really upset. Or, by the way, people that have been pushed onto these Medicaid expansion plans that realize that no doctors take Medicaid anymore. So they got to drive, miles and miles to find anybody and wait months and months to be seen.
I have huge concerns for states that expanded Medicaid greatly, because eventually those matches, we doubled our Medicaid population here in Colorado, and those federal matches are going to drop back to where they traditionally are. And here in Colorado, that's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, you're going to get stuck with a bill, and then the money's usually out of the states is going to come right out of education. That's usually the biggest part of a state's budget.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to find the money from somewhere, and they're either going to have to raise taxes, which of course will kill jobs, or they're going to have to take it out of education, which of course, is not something that we should be doing given the fact that in the 21st century, all the good-paying jobs require some level of higher education.
Absolutely. Senator Marco Rubio, I appreciate your time this morning. I know that if you go ahead and make your last-minute pitch to have people vote for your friend Cory Gardner.
Well, let me tell you, Cory Gardner is a real reformer. We are looking for more conservative reformers that are going to go to Washington and not just be the opposition, but plan a clear alternative. I'm proud to have endorsed him early. I'm proud to have been one of the people that encouraged him to run, and I'm proud of the kind of race that he's run. And so we've been active in helping him. And I would just say, if you are a Cory Gardner supporter, please don't be one of those people that has a yard sign in the front of your house but forgets to vote. Go out and vote as soon as you can. Get that vote registered so that we can turn the corner here and usher in the new American century that our children deserve.
Fantastic. Senator Marco Rubio, we'll talk to you again soon, sir.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a good day.